So I wanna stay for a while. I wanna move your way. No, the roof might cave in. All of these snakes in the wild. I'm about to lose my brain. Tell me who gon' save me.
Aston Martin's most important weekend is upcoming with an actually very important 3-race triple header weekends coming with some major updates to the car and what we can expect coming out of Miami and now going into Imola. Imola is going to be their most important race weekend yet. The importance of it is because the actual car's strengths lie in Imola, Barcelona, and Monaco. And updates are coming in some kind of out of left field, not really knowing what was expected to happen with this car. The Amr23 started the year being the best in the slow speed corners and the medium speed corners. In Baku and Miami, they kind of lost a little bit of that advantage, but gained a lot on the DRS. And now that the numbers are out, we actually have a scale showing that their DRS efficiency is just as good. I mean, it's a little less, but almost as good as Haas and Red Bull, which are the two best teams when it comes to DRS efficiency. Now, this was very important and something they lacked, and they were the actual worst team when it came to it before the Miami Grand Prix. And now, they're even looking into changes to shred that drag even more. I already talked about the floor update in my last Aston Martin video, but now there's more confirmation going upon it, and I guess the news that I was hearing, and being already ahead of the time, I talked about the floor update. And now we're also hearing that the rear diffuser is being upgraded, which is, I guess, to go with the floor too. So it is a big, really change coming to that car, and something that needed to be changed, because we already talked about, really from the beginning of the year, how the car is changing in that rear diffuser part and how the Mercedes car actually kind of makes it lack in that avenue. Side pods have actually been talked about recently, and even rumors about a no side pod design coming in the near future. Now, I saw it somewhere reported that side pods are something that's being talked about for this Grand Prix. I don't believe that to be true. I think that's a rumor going around right now. I think it's something that's planned actually further on down, but Dan Follows has talked about that this upgrade will actually be planned to reduce the drag on the car. Right now, their side pod design is very close to the Ferrari design, at least that's what I would say, but it is very different also in the ways that it performs and really gets out that air flow. But clearly the car has been working and a lot of good stuff has been happening, good changes. Really, the personnel has been working perfectly, the factory is coming along, and Fernando Alonso is extremely happy with the team. And if you get a happy Fernando, it'll always be a good outcome. And another thing with Fernando is, he even talks about, after the Miami Grand Prix, him being very content with the podiums, but step-ups are needed to be made. And I agree, now the upgrades are coming, now the big stuff is coming, and even the talks about the Amr24 is coming, which I find pretty interesting that they're already talking about it, but it's something that I like.
So I think Lawrence is very happy that we've made the progress that we hoped we would. He keeps saying to us, you know, we're on a long-term journey here. His vision for the team is for us to be fighting for wins and championships, and this year, this car is one stage on that journey.
Now, every team so far this year has been behind Red Bull. It has not been a huge margin, especially when it comes to Aston Martin, but for other teams, and specifically talking about the other really 5 teams, because I would argue that 6 teams. I would argue that Ferrari and Mercedes are still pretty close. They can catch up, but the other 6 teams are really out of the world when it comes to Red Bull's pace. Aston Martin is the closest out of these, and even Alonso and all of us fans are expecting that car to be getting big time upgrades. Hence why the importance of this really triple header we're getting is going to really play a big factor into, can they fight or can they even bring it next year? The car, like I talked about, has big strengths. Monaco will really put those strengths out. I do think it will still be tough to beat that Ferrari in qualifying trim, but during the race, if Fernando's able to put it up in P2 and keep up on Leclerc's tail and do an overcut or an undercut, I think that it's a good win there for Aston Martin. Now, other way around, Red Bull could also be quick in Monaco. Yet again though, I still want to see how big their strengths are in Monaco and in Barcelona, because Barcelona, the track is very dependent on downforce, especially through sectors 2 and 3. Now, sector 1 obviously is going to have that big straight, and that might play a factor into them losing out, but their actual straight line speed is very good now, and it was performing very well in Miami. Now, in Imola, same thing. It's sectors 2 and 3 will be where that Aston Martin has its biggest advantage, and I would argue that sector 1 is also a very good one if it isn't for the straight. Now those medium speed corners in Imola are deadly and can really catch a lot of people out, but that is where that Aston Martin thrives. And also it is looking to be a rainy weekend. Now with the new floor update coming and a rear diffuser update coming, we could see a lot closer of a pack. It would definitely be very interesting, and this is where I think this is the weekend where I think Aston Martin at least needs to beat Checo on pure race pace merit. And I'm saying Checo because Checo is slower out of the two of them. Is he much slower than Max? No. So it's possible that Fernando could catch up to Max. It's going to be a difficult task, but if it's rainy, if the advantages are right, that downforce is planted very nicely on that car, they could take the win. And it could be a very, very interesting triple header coming into this weekend. Before I dive even deeper into the no side pod concept and what I really want to talk about even deeper in this video, I wanted to thank you all. I'm a bit ill, if you haven't heard in the video already, but I love you guys. I missed this. I'm glad I'm back from vacation, and thank you all so much for the support. If you haven't been really on this channel yet, then please subscribe, like. I upload almost every single week. I'm back now, and I'm glad to be back. Thank you all so much for the support. Let's get back into the video. More on the no side pod concept. Dan Follows has talked about this, and the rumor has been coming out that this is kind of what they're planning on doing for shredding the drag. Now, I think this is pretty interesting to really talk about. And what I have on the screen right now is an image of the actual W14 and how the side pod kind of almost looks alike to the W14 when you put the Amr23 kind of overlaid over it. It's really interesting to look at because if it isn't for that big wall or really barrier that Aston Martin has there to really make the airflow go in a different path, it's pretty similar to the actual W14. And I'm wondering if that part of it is actually kind of introducing some type of drag. Now, obviously the floor coming could really change their path of direction on how they would like to keep doing this, but the floor has to also be kind of oriented towards that real rear diffuser and rear back of the car because of how the actual Mercedes gearbox and the way that it performs into the back. So, I mean, really, the car was always optimized to be a no side pod design, but Aston Martin has really pulled the best out of what they could with this really suspension design they have in the back and this actual gearbox. It's a very interesting way of going, and I actually have on the screen the no side pod design and how it would look like on the AMR, and man, it looks mean. I do love the look of it, but man, it's got to perform. I want to see the performance out of it. That's my biggest thing with this AMR23. Like, I want them to start winning. Obviously, that is the biggest importance for Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll, Lawrence Stroll, to just get these wins and get at least 3 or 4 on the board before going into 2024 to really say, listen, we're taking the fight to Red Bull. Now, they're not far from it. I do believe that they will take the fight to Red Bull, but it's going to take those extra couple of tenths and few gains for Fernando or even Lance on a good day to take it to really the big teams. And I'm not just talking about Red Bull. I'm talking about what Mercedes will bring, what Ferrari will bring, and what those teams have always been able to introduce due to actually being top teams on the field. Aston Martin is now a new top team, and it will require big change. And as Fernando even talks about, not even 100%, but even bigger than that actual 100% needs to be involved for the team to actually win and perform on race pace merit. It's an interesting weekend and really 3-day triple header coming ahead of us. I think it will be a blast, and I think being an Aston Martin fan now during this triple header is probably the best time. And we're looking at a very, very, very close field going into these 3 races and a lot of upgrades coming. So I hope you guys stay with me, and I hope that we get to see an absolute banger of a triple header. So please subscribe, like, it would mean the world, and peace.